The balance between showcasing beautiful fish and breeding fish on a large scale is always really difficult to manage. I'd love to say that while we were running the hatchery, all of our tanks looked like this, with these beautiful concepts and healthy looking fish on great display, but the truth is it was never like that. It was always a mission to make sure that the margins of keeping the fish were balanced with the convenience of materials that we use to keep the fish in, as well as the mechanisms that we ran the whole hatchery was ensuring that our margins were really good. You know, you need to keep your power bills low, you need to keep your water bills low, and you need to ensure that the actual outlay cost is as little as possible, as well as making sure that the food that you're preparing for the fish is as high a quality as possible and also cost effective. So our whole hatchery was run with these large IBC containers. Basically, they're a big metal cage with a plastic pot inside. They're 1,000 liters. Every one of the tanks were run with multiple block foam filters. We used an air uplift system, which is basically PVC pipe in an uplift driven system. It's got a 90-degree bend in it. The block of foam is very large, it's easy to wash, and then all of that wastewater can be used to go to your plants. We'd also ensure that the tank was fully stocked with lots and lots of gear, like you can see. This would ensure that there's a high level of habitat enrichment and that lots of multiple fish could be kept in the tank, ensuring that even the lowest pecking order female felt safe and did well. She got enough food and she looked healthy. I mean, there's nothing worse than seeing unhealthy, frail looking fish, especially the females. Now, we ran the whole hatchery with this high grade blower. It is not a high pressure system, it's a high volume system, so we used it to run all of the foam filters. We used these blocks of foam, so that's porous 30 ppi 15 by 15 centimeter squares, and it comes in a 50 centimeter piece. We would just cut it down, make an incision, insert the pipe into the X cut, and then that's how we'd run that filter. So each tank was run with one of those, and then we use this uplift driven system. So basically we're using a Halia compressor pump. So these are high pressure pumps which allows you to pump water from the very bottom of the tank into a air uplift system. So PVC pipe, we use 15 to 20 mil depending on the tank. And this is basically a crude design of what we'd run. So we'd have about 25 of the IBCs in the room, and then on top of that we had a metal framework that had 2 tanks. So the tanks basically fed into each other, so if you poured water into the top tank it would fall into the tank below, which would then fall back into the IBC. We used the air uplift system, which you can see in red. It pumped water all the way from the bottom of the IBC to the very top tank where we house the baby fish of the 3 species that we'd keep. And we always overlapped fish species in our breeding tanks. I didn't really care about hybridization, especially with the species that we'd mix. So we'd mix like a Tanganyikan rock dweller, a Mabuna type fish, and a Lonicara type species. You know, so 3 species that if they ever did interbreed, you would highly see it. It would be like so obvious that you'd be like, all right, we have to cull those fish. What was interesting is how little that happened. I think it happened on one occasion, and that was when the females were, I can only assume, under the weather and therefore just weren't happy to breed. Yeah, so basically the system works really well. One of the things that we did is we housed the air compressor and the blower in an insulated box outside the hatchery, and then we sucked the air from that box into the hatchery, and that was what we used as heating for the room. So warm, dry air being warmed by the actual air delivery system, and that really and the other thing was all of our wastewater, which was very nutrient rich, was used to grow plants. So it's kind of that balance, you know, it almost offsets it by your output by using a waste product. So yeah, hopefully this helped in the future design of how you're setting up a fish room. It was very cost effective, it worked really well for us, and we were able to produce high amounts of high quality fish in highly competitive environments that weeded out the weak fish, but also provided the best possible environment, so you had good epigenetic manifestation. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed. The next video will showcase what we've done to the room. It's not a hatchery anymore, it's now a beautiful oasis that's used for healing the mind, body and soul. So check that out.